Hey, welcome. I'm Cath Nolan, once high-performing perfectionist good girl turned goddess of balance, kicking even bigger goals. This is the podcast where we make balance doable for busy, overstretched working women, embracing your voice, honoring your feminine power, and protecting your energy. This allows you to truly step into greatness for the sake of all you hold dear. This is balance, and I am so glad you are here claiming balance for yourself. Hey, so today we're talking about something that might explain why balance still feels out of reach, even though you want it. No matter how much you want it, it still feels out of reach. You know the feeling, you've tried the strategies, you have time blocked, you have meal prepped, you have meditated, you've signed up for the classes, you've got the planner, you know that balance is good for you. You've possibly binge listened to podcasts about how to get more balance. You know it's good for you, but it's not sticking. So today I want to gently suggest to you that it's not a strategy problem, it's an identity story problem. So let me put this to you. You brush your teeth twice a day. You don't guilt trip yourself over brushing your teeth twice a day, but 5 minutes of breathing or journaling and suddenly you're selfish. That tells me that it's not about logistics. It's about who you believe you are when you take time for yourself. So let me tell you a quick story. When I was growing up, I had strong women around me. My nana, my mum, her mother, they were bold, capable, extraordinary. My mum, did I say my mum or her mum? My mum. My aunts, the cousins, they were strong and extraordinary, but they had to package that power to survive. 4 generations, the latest research is showing that we carry 4 generations of unconscious stories. So 4 generations ago, the messages that they were carrying in order to survive were to be attractive, be agreeable, be impressive, never too much, never selfish. So now even I finding myself planning hair wash days around big meetings because somewhere deep down being presentable still feels like survival. We seem to have this back and forth conversation about, how we look, and how we look is incredibly important to how we show up. And how we look shouldn't matter. It really should not matter. And yet it does. It does internally and externally. This is part of, it's not vanity, it's inherited bias. And as I said, the science backs it up. So what this means is that when you try to set a boundary, or say no, or take time for you and your body tenses up, this is not a weakness, my friend. This is a nervous system whispering, this isn't safe, this isn't who we are. And this is why balance doesn't stick, because your identity, the story that you've inherited, it hasn't caught up to the life that you want. It hasn't caught up to your current day logic or your current day reality of what life should be. You're still caught in the conditioning of the past. The thing is that you can have the best tools in the world. I teach some of them, like 10 minutes within 10 minutes. Oh my God, 10 minutes of sunshine within 10 minutes of waking is phenomenally powerful for resetting your circadian rhythms, for giving you that 10-minute window at the start of the day that says, it's for you. There is something in this day for me. I am a priority. It is so powerful. Reset rituals, digital boundaries. There are so many strategies that work beautifully for giving you a more balanced life, a more balanced work life, a more productive work life, so that then you have more room for your home life, and aside from your home life, there's your inner life. But all of these strategies are not going to land if the story underneath is, I'm only worthy when I'm useful to others. That's why your boundaries don't hold, because boundaries live at the behavior level, but your resistance is coming from the identity level. Let me say this really clearly. Your calendar doesn't need your calendar. Let me say this really clearly, and then I mumble it. Really cool. Let me say it clearly this time. Your calendar doesn't need another block of self-care. It needs a new story about who you are. So I want to hang out here for a little bit. James Clear says it beautifully. James Clear, Atomic Habits. James Clear says, every action is a vote for the type of person you believe that you are. And neuroscience tells us that the brain prefers familiarity over functionality. So if you are used to being the helper, the fixer, the go-to, then your brain is going to cling to these identities even when they are burning you out. Balance then becomes a threat, not a solution. So of course it's hard to take on these habits that are proactive balance habits. There was a UK study that showed that guilt about self-care peaks between the ages of 35 and 47, exactly when women are juggling career progression, aging parents, and young kids. This is not random. This is social programming. We were raised to see our worth in how well we juggle it all, not how well we rest in it. I think for many people who are listening to this, I think that you'll relate to this. We were raised in the era. We were raised in the era of good girls and gold stars. And now we've grown into women who are trying to run boardrooms and households and everything in between while still feeling the need to be likable. And there's a whole lot of extra science around that as well. I mean, being likable is really important. There are studies that show that people will follow a likable leader ahead of a leader who is actually got the runs on the board. So look, honestly, no wonder balance feels hard. We are chasing leadership while carrying the emotional labor of being lovely. And in the workplace, we're seeing a trend right now. The flexibility backlash. This is a super pressing and really common thread for so many of my clients right now. There's this corporate culture that although we've had a push towards flexibility over the last few years, there's this backlash that is really very, very pressing. Corporate culture rewards exhaustion. Busy equals important, tired equals committed, and available 24/7 equals a team player. So if that's what we're mirroring, no wonder balance feels like a rebellion, because it is, and no one gave us a safe script for that. We can have, the scripts for the scripts. There are scripts. I've got scripts. We work through scripts for, how do you push back with boundaries? But the work, the inner work, the scripts for yourself, the scripts for the conversations with yourself, those ones are deeper work, much deeper work. So let me call a little spotlight here. This is is this you moment. Are you ready? So meet the overfunctioning leader. You say yes to the extra meeting. You take on the work of the person who's just resigned. You even rearrange your Friday afternoon so that your boss won't feel bad for asking. And you tell yourself it's just this once, but it's never just once. Because somewhere inside, being needed still feels safer than being seen. If that's what you believe, then no balance strategy will land. Your system is wired to equate overgiving with safety. Hun, balance doesn't start with boundaries, it starts with identity. Glennon Doyle once said, a woman becomes a responsible adult the moment she realizes she was trained to be the emotional support dog for everyone else around her. And that's what we're talking about here. You don't need another routine. Well, another routine might help you, but until you get there, you actually just need to retire from being everyone else's safety blanket. This is the exact work that we do inside the Balance Code, and I want to invite you into it gently. Start with a free masterclass. It'll walk you through how to spot your inherited stories. It'll help you to spot the invisible rules that you've been living by without realizing it. And then, if this resonates, if you find that work is useful for you, if you find that work is tangible and pragmatic and gives you a step towards the kind of life that you want, then come join us in the Balance Code membership. It does bring a smorgasbord of ideas for leaning into who you want to be, those practical strategies, those scripts that I mentioned, for example. Strategies for who you want to be as a leader, as a human with relationships, whether you are a mum or a daughter or a friend, whether you are a board member, whether you are an executive, whether you are someone who wants to be those things. Strategies for who you are as an individual with desires and values and a need to feel challenged and rewarded and fulfilled. It's the place where you rewrite the story of who you're allowed to be. Because balance is not something that you do. It's not something you do. It's something that you allow. So I just want to say thank you for being here. If this has landed, share it with someone who's tired of saying all the right things, doing all the right things, and is finally ready to ask the right question. Not a what's the trick to balance question, but the question is, what's the story underneath? I will see you in the masterclass. You know, I believe that women do help other women. I hope that this episode has empowered you to question your willingness to go last. I hope that you will embrace balance, and I'm also hoping that you will help me to help other women to do the same. So how can you help? Show your support for the work. Subscribe and review the podcast here where you're listening. Follow the Goddess of Balance on Instagram to catch some cheeky behind the scenes and extras. Connect with me on LinkedIn and share the posts with your network. That would be sensational. If you have enjoyed this program, this episode, you will no doubt love my group coaching program. You got to find all the links to these in the little written blurb for this episode. Thank you, my friend, for normalizing balance with me. We are raising performance and reputations, wellness and equality. Together, we're creating positive change for working women, starting with you. Sincerely, I thank you for being part of the movement.